My name is Emma Wright, and at 54, I've spent nearly 3 decades building a life I thought was secure until tonight. For 28 years, I played the devoted wife to James Carter, sacrificing my own ambitions to support his endless ventures and raise our brilliant daughter, Sophie. As a financial expert, I managed our family's stability while James chased dreams that often crumbled. But nothing prepared me for the moment he chose to shatter our world in front of everyone we knew. The chandelier-lit dining room of the Ivy in London buzzed with celebration. 50 guests, friends, family, colleagues gathered to honor Sophie's university graduation, her cap still perched proudly on her head. Clink of champagne glasses and warm laughter filled the air as James stood, his tailored suit impeccable, his smile as charming as ever. I expected a toast to our daughter's honors degree, a moment to bask in her achievement. Instead, his words cut through the festive hum like a blade. I've decided to start a new life without Emma. Silence crashed over the room. Forks froze midair. Eyes darted to me, waiting for tears, a scream, or some dramatic collapse. I felt Sophie stiffen beside me, her breath catching. Across the room, Claire Evans, James's 37-year-old mistress, shifted uncomfortably at a table with friends I'd once trusted. Friends who knew about their affair but never warned me. The betrayal stung, but I'd prepared for this. My heart raced, yet I forced a serene smile, one I'd practiced for months. "Thank you for your honesty, James," I said, my voice steady, almost warm. His smug expression faltered as I reached into my purse and pulled out a cream-colored envelope, placing it gently beside his plate. "Something for you to read later." His eyes narrowed, but I didn't linger to watch his reaction. I turned to Sophie, her face pale with shock, and kissed her cheek. "I'm so proud of you, darling. Today is still your day." Rising, I smoothed my navy dress and addressed the stunned guests. "Please enjoy your meal." With that, I walked toward the exit, my heels clicking on the polished floor, feeling the weight of 50 pairs of eyes. Whispers erupted as the heavy glass door swung shut behind me. Cool London evening hit me, but it felt like freedom. For the first time in years, I could breathe. I heard the door slam open behind me. "Emma, what the hell is this?" James's voice, once confident, now cracked with panic. I didn't turn back, but a small smile curved my lips. Inside that envelope were divorce papers, meticulously prepared with my lawyer, citing the infidelity clause in our prenup, a clause James had insisted on 28 years ago to protect his future earnings. Tucked alongside was a USB drive, holding evidence of his illegal transfers to an offshore account, part of a money-laundering scheme tied to a shady real estate deal. The note inside read, "Meet me at the lawyer's office. You'll need it." It was a warning. He wasn't just losing me. He was losing everything. I'd been working with Thomas Reed, an investigative journalist, for months, and James had no idea how deep my knowledge ran. His carefully planned exit was about to unravel. If you're still here, thank you for listening to this part of my story. Hit the like button if you're hooked already, and don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss what happens when everything begins to fall apart. My name is Emma Wright, and 3 months ago I sat in my office at Sterling Financial in London, staring at numbers that told a story my heart wasn't ready to accept. For 30 years, I've been a financial expert, the one who kept our family afloat while James chased fleeting dreams, failed restaurants, short-lived furniture ventures, midlife crises dressed as passions. I put my own dream of opening a consultancy for women on hold, always telling myself, after Sophie graduates. But that day, as I reviewed our joint accounts, I saw something that changed everything. It started with small, irregular transfers, £5,000 here, £10,000 there, to an account I didn't recognize. My instincts, honed by decades in finance, screamed red flags. I traced the funds through layers of transactions, uncovering a shell company, Horizon Ventures, tied to a dubious real estate project in Canary Wharf. The deeper I dug, the worse it got. The transfers weren't just careless, they were part of a money laundering scheme. James, breaking a sweat. I didn't confront him. Not yet. I needed more. I remembered Thomas Reed, an investigative journalist I'd met at a finance conference 2 years ago. His card was still in my desk drawer, a hunch from a conversation about corporate fraud. I called him, my voice steady despite the knot in my chest. "Thomas, I need your help." He listened as I outlined the suspicious transactions, agreeing to dig into James's business ties. Within days, he confirmed Horizon Ventures linked to shady partners, including a high-profile politician whose name made my blood run cold. "Emma, this is bigger than you think," Thomas warned over a secure call. "This politician's influence could bury this, or you. Be careful." But I wasn't backing down. I'd spent years cleaning up James's messes. This time, I'd outmaneuver him. Then came the second blow. James left his phone unlocked one evening, and I found messages with Claire Evans, his 37-year-old mistress. Their texts laid out his plan: announce our separation after Sophie's graduation, start a new life with Claire, funded by money he thought I'd never notice. I recorded his calls, his voice cold as he plotted to break free publicly to avoid a scene. He underestimated me. I'd built our financial security. I knew money trails better than he ever would. With Thomas, I sent anonymous tips to the Financial Conduct Authority, careful to keep my name out of it. We held off on public exposure. Thomas's article would wait until the divorce papers hit James, ensuring he had no time to cover his tracks. I drafted those papers with my lawyer, leveraging our prenup's infidelity clause, which James had arrogantly insisted on years ago. It would be his undoing. Every night, I pored over bank records, emails, and Thomas's findings, my resolve hardening. James thought he could walk away with everything: Claire, our money, a beachfront fantasy. But I was 3 steps ahead, ready to unravel his world before he could escape with the laundered funds. This wasn't just about revenge, it was about reclaiming my life. I sat in the living room of our elegant London townhouse, the weight of 28 years with James Carter pressed against my chest. The soft glow of the antique chandelier illuminated family photos on the walls, smiling moments from a life I'd thought we'd built together. But tonight, after James's humiliating announcement at Sophie's graduation party, those memories felt like relics of a lie. I'd left the restaurant with my head high, but now, in the quiet of our home, I braced for the storm I knew was coming. The front door slammed open, and James stormed in, his face flushed with fury, waving the cream-colored envelope I'd given him. "Emma, what game are you playing?" he bellowed, his voice echoing off the oak floors. I closed my laptop calmly, meeting his eyes. "Just helping you start your new life, James," I said, my tone cool, almost amused. He ripped open the envelope, pulling out the divorce papers and the USB drive, his hands trembling as he read the note. "Meet me at the lawyer's office. You'll need it," he scoffed, tossing the papers onto the coffee table. "The prenup expired years ago, Emma. You've got nothing," I smirked, leaning back in the armchair. "Actually, it didn't. Section 12 states the infidelity clause holds for the duration of our marriage. And I have proof of your affair with Claire and your illegal transfers to that offshore account." His eyes widened, the bravado draining from his face. "What transfers?" he stammered, but I could see the panic setting in. I stood, my voice steady. "The ones tied to Horizon Ventures, James. The money laundering scheme for that Canary Wharf project. I've sent evidence to the Financial Conduct Authority, nothing public yet, but they're watching. Sign the divorce papers or your troubles will grow far beyond a courtroom." His jaw tightened, but he couldn't hide the fear. He thought he'd blindsided me at the restaurant, but I'd been planning for months, working with Thomas Reed, the journalist who was ready to expose his crimes. "There's more," I added, nodding to the USB. "Check your company email. Thomas Reed sent you a gift." As I gathered my purse, I watched him fumble for his phone, his fingers shaking. I knew what he'd find: a draft article from Thomas, detailing his money laundering scheme and naming the politician involved. The article ended with a threat to publish unless James complied. He'd face not just divorce but prison. I walked toward the door, pausing to glance at the suitcases he'd hidden in the hall closet, packed for his new life with Claire, predictable as always. "You have until tomorrow to move out," I said, my voice firm. "After that, the locks change." I left him standing amidst our shared past, his world unraveling. As I drove to Laura's, I felt a surge of power. James thought he'd broken me, but I was just beginning. I pulled into the driveway of Laura's cozy bungalow near King's College London. The weight of the evening's events settled over me like a fog. The small house, with its ivy-covered walls and warm lamplight spilling through the windows, felt like a sanctuary after James's betrayal at Sophie's graduation party. For 28 years, I'd been the steady hand in our marriage, but tonight I was stepping into a new role, one I'd crafted in secret, fueled by months of preparation. Laura, James's sister and my confidant, greeted me with a fierce hug, her eyes blazing with indignation. "I can't believe he did that in front of everyone," she said, pulling me inside. Laura had suspected James's affair with Claire Evans for months, ever since she spotted them at a charity gala, too close for comfort. Over tea in her cluttered kitchen, surrounded by stacks of literature books, she confessed she'd confronted him. "He swore it was a meaningless fling, that he'd end it," she said, her voice bitter. "I should have told you sooner, Emma." I shook my head, reassuring her. "You couldn't have known how deep this went." I hadn't told Laura everything yet, not about the money laundering scheme I'd uncovered or my work with Thomas Reed, the journalist helping me expose James's crimes. The doorbell rang and Sophie burst in, still in her graduation dress, her makeup streaked with tears. "Mom, why didn't you tell me?" she cried, collapsing into my arms. My heart ached as I held her, her pain a mirror of my own. "I didn't want to ruin your final semester, darling," I said softly. "You worked so hard for today." Sophie pulled back, her eyes flashing with anger. "Dad ruined it anyway. How could he do this?" She was furious at James but terrified for our family's future, her voice trembling as she asked, "What happens now?" Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. It was Thomas Reed calling on a secure line. I stepped into Laura's sunroom, surrounded by potted plants, to take it. "The regulators are reviewing James's transactions," Thomas said. "They've got enough to start, but a solid case will take time." I nodded, though he couldn't see. "Hold the article until after the preliminary hearing. I want maximum impact." As I hung up, I turned to find Sophie staring, her face pale. She'd overheard. "Mom, what transactions? Is Dad a criminal?" she demanded, her voice breaking. I took a deep breath, knowing I couldn't shield her any longer. "Your father's been laundering money through a shell company, Sophie. I found out 3 months ago. I'm working with a journalist to expose him, but it's dangerous. There's a powerful politician involved." Her eyes widened, fear mixing with betrayal. "I'm playing a risky game," I admitted, "but I'll protect you from the fallout, I promise." Sophie nodded, tears falling, and I pulled her close. Laura watched us, her expression fierce. With their support, I felt ready to face what came next. I sat in Laura's cozy bungalow, the air still heavy from Sophie's tearful questions. The doorbell's sharp ring cut through the quiet. My heart steeled, knowing who it would be. Laura opened the door and James stormed in, Claire Evans trailing behind, her confident stride faltering under the weight of the evening's chaos. James's face was a mask of fury, his eyes locked on me. "Emma, you need to stop this madness," he demanded, his voice booming in the small living room. "Unfreeze the accounts now." Claire hovered near him, her blonde hair catching the lamplight, looking less like the poised mistress and more like someone caught in a trap. I leaned back in Laura's worn armchair, my calm a deliberate contrast to his rage. "I'm not the one making reckless choices, James," I said, my tone even. Sophie, still in her graduation dress, stepped in front of me, her hands clenched. "You ruined my day, Dad," she snapped, her voice raw. "You humiliated Mum in front of everyone. James's eyes widened as if he hadn't expected Sophie's defiance, but he waved her off. "Sophie, this doesn't involve you." "Doesn't involve me?" she retorted, incredulous. "You blew up our family at my graduation." Claire touched James's arm, her voice soft. "Greg, maybe we should go." But I wasn't letting her off that easily. "Claire, you claim you didn't know he'd announce it publicly," I said, my gaze piercing. "But you were happy to accept the jewelry, the dinners, all paid with money from his offshore account, money laundered through Horizon Ventures." Her face paled, her hand dropping from James's arm. "What are you talking about?" she stammered, but the fear in her eyes betrayed her. I stood, my voice cold. "The accounts stay frozen until the hearing in 3 days. Financial Conduct Authority will be in touch soon, James. And Claire, you might want to check your own exposure. Thomas Reed has evidence of those transactions, and he's ready to publish." Claire's head whipped toward James. "You said the money was clean," she hissed, her composure cracking. James glared at me, but his voice shook. "You're bluffing, Emma. This isn't you." "Maybe you never knew me," I replied, my words sharp. "Just like I didn't know you were laundering money for a politician's pet project." The room fell silent, the tension thick. Claire turned on James, her voice rising. "What else haven't you told me?" He shook her off, but the cracks in their alliance were glaring. Laura stepped forward, arms crossed. "You've upset Sophie enough. Leave." James hesitated, then stormed out, Claire trailing behind, their arguments spilling into the night. As the door slammed, Sophie sank onto the sofa, her anger giving way to exhaustion. I sat beside her, my resolve unshaken. James thought he could control the narrative, but I'd already rewritten it. With Thomas's article looming, his world was about to collapse. I sat in the austere London courtroom on that rainy morning. The steady patter of rain against the windows mirrored the quiet resolve in my heart. For 28 years, I'd been James Carter's anchor, managing our finances while he chased fleeting ambitions. Now, at 54, I was here to dismantle the life he'd tried to steal from me. The preliminary hearing was my first step, and I'd come prepared, armed with evidence of his betrayal and crimes. James sat across the room, his new lawyer, a young, nervous associate, fidgeting beside him. I met his glare with calm certainty, knowing he'd underestimated me one last time. The judge, a stern woman with silver hair, reviewed the prenuptial agreement I'd dusted off from our early marriage. James had insisted on it to protect his future ET was valid. "Section 18 clearly states the duration is for the term of the marriage," she read, her voice crisp. "The infidelity clause applies, and Mrs. Wright has provided substantial evidence." James's lawyer stammered, arguing the prenup had expired. The judge's eyes narrowed over her glasses. "No expiration is indicated," she said firmly, dismissing his protests. "Joint accounts remain frozen pending discovery, and the family home is granted to Mrs. Wright per the infidelity clause." James's face reddened, his muttered, "This is outrageous," earning a sharp glance from the judge. I sat silently, my heart steady, though the weight of our shared past lingered like a shadow. As we left the courtroom, my phone buzzed with a text from Thomas Reed, the investigative journalist I'd been working with for months. "Articles live. Good luck, Emma." I stepped into the rain-soaked street, pulling up the headline on my phone. "London businessman tied to money laundering scandal with political backer." Thomas's article, published in the Times, detailed James's scheme through Horizon Ventures, revealing how he'd used a prominent politician's name to mask illegal offshore transfers for a shady Canary Wharf project. The story sent shockwaves through London's business elite, shattering James's carefully crafted image as a successful entrepreneur. Politicians' involvement turned it into a public scandal, ensuring James faced not just financial ruin but a criminal investigation. I felt a mix of relief and sorrow as I walked away, the courthouse looming behind me. The years I'd given James, through his failed ventures, our shared dreams, felt like a distant ache. But I was done mourning. I'd already leased a small office in central London, laying the foundation for Wright Financial Futures, my consultancy to empower women navigating crises like mine. Helping others reclaim their strength would be my redemption. James's world was collapsing, his accounts frozen, his reputation in tatters, and the threat of prison looming. I'd outplayed him, not just for me but for Sophie, for justice. As the rain washed over me, I felt cleansed, ready to build a future on my own terms. 6 months after that rainy morning in the London courtroom, I stood in my new office in the heart of the city, gazing out at the bustling streets below. The space was modest but mine, a corner suite in a sleek building on Chancery Lane, with Wright Financial Futures etched in gold on the door. 54, I'd spent nearly 3 decades as James Carter's wife, the steady hand behind his reckless dreams, sacrificing my own to keep our family afloat. Now, I was no longer defined by him or the betrayal that had shattered our life at Sophie's graduation. I'd built something new, something that mattered. My consultancy thrived, helping dozens of women navigate divorces, widowhood, and financial crises with the clarity and strength I'd fought to reclaim. The office hummed with purpose. My 2 associates, both women who'd faced their own battles, moved between client meetings, their voices steady as they explained asset division or investment strategies. My first clients had been 2 divorcees, their stories echoing mine, betrayed, underestimated, but determined to rebuild. Word spread, and now my calendar was booked weeks in advance. I specialized in empowering women to take control during life's upheavals, offering not just financial advice but a roadmap to independence. Each success story felt like a piece of my own redemption, a reminder that the pain of James's betrayal had forged something stronger in me. Sophie, now 22 and working in marketing in Bristol, visited often, her pride in me a quiet balm for the wounds of the past. Last week, she'd arrived with a bottle of Prosecco, her eyes bright as she toured the office. "Mom, you're helping people through their worst moments," she said, hugging me tightly. "I'm so proud." Her words warmed me, though I knew the road to healing our family wasn't complete. She was still grappling with her father's actions, her trust in him fractured by his public announcement and the criminal web he'd woven. James, meanwhile, had fallen far. The man who once charmed boardrooms now lived in a cramped flat in East London. His business empire collapsed under the weight of his own deceit. His money-laundering scheme through Horizon Ventures, exposed by Thomas Reed's explosive article in The Times, had made him a pariah. Friends who once toasted his success shunned him, their invitations drying up as the scandal grew. Claire Evans, his former mistress, had left him within weeks, trading him for a wealthy property developer from Chelsea. The irony wasn't lost on me. She'd thought James was her ticket to a glamorous life, only to find his promises built on lies. Now, James faced a criminal investigation, the Financial Conduct Authority digging into his ties to a powerful politician whose name had fueled the public outcry. His downfall was complete, a poetic justice sealed by the prenup he'd once demanded to protect himself. That morning, as I sipped coffee at my desk, an email popped up from a woman named Margaret, a stranger whose name I didn't recognize. "Dear Ms. Wright," it began, "I lost my savings to the Canary Wharf project your ex-husband was involved in. Your courage in exposing his scam gave me hope to pursue justice." "Thank you." My breath caught. I'd known James's crimes hurt others, but this was the first time I'd heard from a victim. The weight of my actions settled over me, not just revenge, but a ripple effect of good. By working with Thomas, I'd helped shine a light on corruption, giving others a chance to fight back. I forwarded the email to Thomas, adding a simple note, "Thank you for making this possible." Later that day, Thomas called, his voice crackling with excitement. "Emma, I'm digging deeper into James's partners," he said. "That politician isn't the only one involved. There's a network here. This story's far from over." I smiled, picturing his cluttered desk, papers strewn with leads. Thomas had been my secret weapon, his investigative skills amplifying my plan beyond what I'd imagined. His article hadn't just destroyed James's reputation, it had sparked a broader reckoning. "Keep me posted," I said, my mind already turning to the women I'd meet that afternoon, their futures resting on my guidance. Standing at my office window, I watched London pulse below, taxis weaving, people hurrying through the autumn chill. 6 months ago, I'd walked out of that restaurant, my heart pounding but my head high, knowing I'd turned James's betrayal into my triumph. The USB drive I'd slipped into that envelope, with its evidence of his money laundering and the draft article Thomas sent to his email, had been my checkmate. But this wasn't just about revenge. I'd reclaimed myself, my intelligence, my courage, my purpose. I wasn't just Sophie's mother or James's ex-wife anymore. I was Emma Wright, mentor, advocate, and architect of my own future. The dangerous game I'd played, working with Thomas to expose James's ties to a politician, knowing the risks of crossing powerful figures, had tested me in ways I hadn't anticipated. Yet it had also shown me my own strength. Margaret's email was proof that my fight had mattered beyond my own story, touching lives I'd never meet. As I turned back to my desk, a new client file waiting, I felt free, empowered, and whole. The woman who'd once defined herself by others' needs had found a new identity. Wright Financial Futures wasn't just a business, it was my rebirth, a testament to what resilience and strategy could achieve. 3 lessons from Emma's story. Knowledge is power, especially when wielded strategically. Emma's expertise as a financial professional allowed her to uncover James's infidelity and illegal activities, turning his betrayal into her advantage. By meticulously gathering evidence and collaborating with Thomas, she ensured her plan was airtight. This teaches us that understanding your circumstances, whether financial, legal, or personal, gives you the tools to navigate crises. Emma didn't react impulsively. She used her knowledge to outmaneuver James, showing that preparation and strategy can transform vulnerability into strength. Resilience can turn betrayal into reinvention. Despite the pain of James's public announcement and the discovery of his crimes, Emma didn't let anger or despair define her. Instead, she channeled her energy into building Wright Financial Futures, a consultancy that empowered others. Her journey highlights that setbacks, even devastating ones, can be catalysts for growth. By focusing on her own goals and helping others, Emma redefined her identity, proving that resilience isn't just surviving, it's thriving through reinvention. Courage in pursuit of justice has a ripple effect. Emma's decision to expose James's money laundering scheme, despite the risks of crossing a powerful politician, wasn't just about personal justice. Her actions, amplified by Thomas's article, helped victims like Margaret and sparked a broader investigation. This shows that standing up to wrongdoing, even when it's personal, can create a wider impact. Courageous actions, rooted in truth and integrity, can inspire and uplift others, turning individual battles into collective victories. If you're still here, thank you for listening. Hit that like button if you're rooting for me, and subscribe for more stories about standing up, fighting back, and finding your voice. Drop a comment, what would you have done in my shoes? I'll see you in the next one.